My high school girlfriend and I were together for like 2 or 3 years, off and on, a little bit towards the end in college. And I mean, as much as you know what love is in your first relationship, we definitely loved each other.
My last relationship was about a year long.
Mm-hmm.
I left him. He left me.
So we were together for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and over that course of a period of time, yeah, I think we loved each other. We said
Okay.
the word.
We were together for 4 years,
Okay.
and I would say yes, we did love each other.
Okay.
Relationships started going bad when we moved in together. We
Okay.
were spending more time with each other. I think it's when you first start spending almost every waking hour with someone, you start to realize, what are these pet habits? Can I actually live with this person?
Okay.
Can I accept these faults, or does all of these bad faults something I can deal with?
I'd say about 7 months in, I felt a little smothered, and it seemed like he wanted a lot of my time, and it was hard to balance, his wants and my need to have some alone time along with my personal and social life and work life.
I would say that we were really young and we went to different schools, different parts of the country. It didn't necessarily go sour, it just sort of ran its course towards the end.
After we had moved in together, and I think just slowly grew apart over time.
I think that the long distance in college was just didn't really make any sense for us. I mean, we were young and we were at different schools, and just started making more sense to explore different relationships.
Yeah, at the end of the day, living with each other, you just found that there are some things that you just can't sacrifice, right? And maybe it's personal time, but for me it was personal time with friends, and having to spend more time with someone, and you realize that you're just not compatible. I think that was part of it. After moving in together, and you realize some of the things that you were doing annoyed that person, and some of the things that they were doing annoyed that person, annoyed myself, and they're kind of like non-negotiables, and that's why it's starting to go bad. But for me, it was spending more personal time for myself and not having that personal space and having to always loop that person in. It's like you need me time, which I wasn't getting enough of.
I felt suffocated, so I ended it. I tried to work on it for 3 months, but it was getting to me on other levels with like mental health and things like that. So I just knew that I had to, cut it off before it affected me too much.
We try to work it out. I think you sit down and have conversations, because for 3 years, dating for 2 or 3 years, you try to work it out before you try to call it quits. And however, it's hard to break old habits. You always go back and default to things. Everyone makes promises, but it's really, do you both keep those promises? Actions always speak louder than words.
Like our freshman year, both of us, we were like, traveling to each other, visiting each other, but then it made more sense to us almost both at the same time, that it just didn't make any sense for us to continue.
I think both of us in the back of our heads knew it wasn't going to work out long term, and so didn't really beat around the bush, just called it quits and never really looked back.
Honestly, it got a little messy, like at the very end, where it was just like a lot of just sort of, it became mutual, but it's hard to say exactly like how it happened when two 18-year-olds are like trying to break up with each other for the first time.
I did.
Okay.
I did the breaking up.
I did the breaking up.
Okay.
And again, I think I just sort of revealed what both of us were thinking, and she was pretty receptive to it.
It was like you're like 18 years old, emotional, and it was a mess towards the very end. But we remained friends. It was a mutual conversation, which was like let's just stop dating.
Okay.
It was pretty tumultuous. I'd say it wasn't just one conversation, because he wanted to have many conversations around it. So it was a long distance relationship. So he lived in Philadelphia, and I wanted to do it in person because I thought he was owed that much. So he drove down after work one day, and I had to tell him then, which sucked because he had a hard day, but I just needed to do it. And then we had a conversation that morning again, and then for weeks after, and yada
Sat
yada.
down. We talked about how our paths are going different ways. How she wanted to start a family, and I just wasn't ready for that, and she knew going into this, and that that wasn't something I wanted right away, and this is what I wanted as well. And we kind of both saw that after we lived together. Again, some non-negotiables were kids and family within a year of living together. I think that was a little bit fast. First, there's marriage and joining marriage before having kids. The kid conversation is weird, but again, I sat down and initiated a conversation, and it didn't go so bad because at that point we were both on the same page.
A couple months, not that long. It's just, it was over for me at that point, really. So it kind of felt like a release and felt like I was relieved.
It took me a little bit, first breakup, so it probably lasted probably a few months where I was just it was a little bit of a rut. And it was a little awkward between us for a little while, but then we got over it.
For me, I believe it took about 2 or 3 months for it to really get over it. We had to move out of the apartment that we rented together, so the first month wasn't really getting over it. It was more so let's get our stuff and how do you separate? That's the hardest part, right? It's not, you're still so intertwined with each other that you didn't actually live anywhere different. After we separated and were living in different places, it took about 2 or 3 months after that. It was probably towards the last month that we're dating. I think you have to start realizing, is this for me or is it not? And you start meeting people and you realize, okay, the alternative is better for me to be by myself than being in this relationship. So possibly a month, about the last 1 or 2 months into the end of it.
Not for a while. I did not want to rush into anything else, and was pretty busy with work anyway.
Oh, immediately. But probably in the beginning, that came from a little bit of just immaturity.
Actually, it scared me because I was thinking about alternatives as when I was getting frustrated with him, and I knew that was bad.
Okay.
So that was my sign. I was doing a lot of chatting with my friends as well. I was pretty open with them about it, so I think I was having the conversation with them and in tandem having it with myself as well.
I think that I probably did. I probably didn't know how to really rationalize it as well as I hopefully could now. But yeah, I think I probably spent a lot of time thinking about that.
I think it was pretty obvious to both of us that it just wasn't really a fit after some thinking. I think it was very clear to both of us that we didn't have a long-term prospect of success, and so it was pretty easy transition.
I asked myself that a few times. I think you had to take away from all the relationships I've been in. You have a ton to take away the bad and the good. If you don't take away the bad, you never know what to make the next relationship better or what you need for yourself. I think the biggest thing is to understand what you need for yourself rather than jumping back into a relationship, because if you don't understand what am I looking for or what went wrong, next one you're just going to go in the same cycle. It's funny, after you break up with someone, your friends come out of the woodwork, they're like, yeah, I never saw this relationship going this way. You're like, where the heck are you guys been? But sometimes, it's up to you to figure it out and your friends to tell you that they saw this going bad or they saw that this person was not compatible with yourself. But, after that, your friends are always there to help you get through. I think for guys, let's go to the bar and get drunk and then figure out the next move.
Lots of social support from primarily friends.
I definitely had a pretty strong group of friends and 2 really close siblings that had gone through similar things that were there to talk to for sure.
Okay.
It didn't really need much explanation because it was just so kind of obvious to the people close to us that it was probably time that we went our separate ways.
I just told people that we had broken up, and I don't think many people were that surprised. And from that point on, I had more time to spend with friends and family that I had sort of grown apart from.
You have to tell your closest family members. I think your brother, maybe if your brother's married sister-in-laws, it's you don't need to necessarily tell your parents right away, but it's typically the folks that you're closest with and your friends and family that you're closest with that you definitely need to tell, especially 2 or 3 years when you're with someone so frequently. How do you go transition from, there's a dinner, where's so-and-so? So you definitely have to slowly break the news to someone, to your family members and your friends.
So in conclusion, what I would say is everyone is different and different people do different things. One of the major implications I had while doing this video was that a lot of people didn't want to reveal their personal information, which was kind of difficult. But once they found out it was for a school project, I guess they kind of helped me out. I initially recorded about 10 people and then had to cut it down to 4 people because of the 10-minute mark we had. I'm hoping I don't go over that. But while recording and listening to all 10 people, I learned 4 major things. And one of them is knowing yourself. The second one is communication is key. The third one is adaptation. And then the fourth one is everyone is different. So I guess before you get yourself in a relationship with someone else, first you need to, know who you are, right, before you can move forward with that. And then you also need to communicate with the other person as far as what things you don't like and things that they do like, and just basically get that basic understanding. The third one is adapting, because we're all different and we all bring different things in the relationship, so we have to learn to adapt. And then the fourth one is basically we're all different, so different people are going to bring different things to the relationship. And before we get into that social phase and the didactic phase, we need to basically try to make the relationship work by actually adapting to these 4 things, and then we move forward with life. I hope. Thank you.